is my neighbor in Washington, D.C. And we're going to just start this conversation off. Kara, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name, like you said, is Kara Capizzi. I started my business, Capizzi Design, 5.5 years ago at this point. My focus is on event and marketing, specifically branding for events and marketing. So that can be a lot of times for events, it tends to be conferences and doing the branding from anything pre-event, which could be invitations to the signage, name tags, anything that's on site. For the marketing side, that's a big range. It can be social media graphics, it can be print brochures, it can be annual reports, logos. That tends to range a lot more, but it always focuses on supporting the marketing for different types of businesses, associations, mainly being in DC. That's a big,
Yeah.
a big market here in DC. But I also work with some nonprofits. I do work with businesses in different parts of the country as well. So it ranges, which is nice. It gives some variety to my work.
Okay, cool. I think you have a great spread of offerings as I viewed your website. So, in working with events and handling deliverables for events, what trends are you seeing now that we have changed? I don't think our lives are ever going to go back to what it was pre-March. So what trends have you noticed in your industry?
Well, definitely virtual, obviously, right? There's nothing in
Okay.
person. I think I would say it's been a little bit of a pause, and we're still trying to figure that out. People were reacting instead of proactively planning. So it was kind of like, well, we have this plan. We have two options. We go virtual or we can cancel it. I did have some or postpone. And I think I've had a little bit of everything on the events that I had scheduled. For me, I'm doing less event work because you don't need the signage and the name tags and all the on-site items for a virtual event, but there still is, the promotion hasn't changed. So, if someone was doing mailers before for their virtual event, they're still doing that. So I think it just depends see how it falls out after the pandemic, and I'm not sure where it will go. I don't think anybody we don't know what anything, right? It's been so unpredictable. We don't know anything at this point. But since I do the design work specifically, it's hard for me to say the details of the events, how they've changed. Someone who's maybe an event planner they might see some more trends, but as from a design perspective, I haven't seen a whole lot change. It's still being branded the same way. It's still being promoted the same way. The biggest change is coming when it's on site or virtual is, it's no longer on site.
So when I think about signage, it's mostly for directional information and for sponsors to get their recognition. So as I was thinking through this, and I have not participated in any events since COVID started, but if you're sitting there like we are for hours on end and you're listening to different lectures, I would think we need commercial breaks. And those commercial breaks would allow for sponsor recognition. And that may be through the design services you provide or things like that. But what I've heard from people is, no, that really didn't get transferred over.
That's a good point. And I attended, I think I attended Adobe Max. I don't attend my client events, so I don't see running them. And the other, I did attend a virtual gala, which was very short. It was 53 minutes, which I've heard is for that type of event, for a fundraising event, tends to be a sweet spot. So that's a very good point I hadn't thought of, and using that, and even for the gala that I attended, I also did the design work for it because that was a local project. That it was interesting to watch it play out and how the slides that you would plan for an in-person event, how they translated. And there was a little bit of a kink there that after seeing it, I was like, well, I don't know that slide was necessary, or we could skip that, or maybe there would have been something else. Now, one thing we did do for that event in signage is a virtual background. So give
Okay.
a Zoom virtual background, which did help brand it a little bit. So, in terms of signage, that is one way to do it. And then I think any kind of slide that may go up would definitely, whether it's sponsors or break or information, would be the way to do it. But there's so many different platforms too that you have to know how the platform works. Is it Zoom? Is it another one that's specific for these types of events? And is it split screen? Are you just seeing the speaker? There's so many things to consider. And I think, like I said earlier, like people are still trying to figure it out because, it's been it feels like it's been forever, but in terms of planning an event, people may just be doing their first virtual event this fall. And,
Yeah.
like they have the benefit of people who went through it and maybe were able to find a little bit of information from someone versus who had to do it in April, right? Scramble. But I think we're also figuring it out.
Okay. Okay. So I read one of your testimonials from one of your adorable clients um, about this partnership, this true partnership you create. So describe to me how you establish that true partnership, because when you build rapport, that's worth its weight in gold.
Yes. I mean, it definitely takes time. I think the first step is being reliable, being responsive, and doing the good work. So you build that trust. So, I think freelance designers sometimes have a reputation for being a little flaky and non-responsive.
No.
Have you heard that? Yeah. Um, so it's really important to not be that, to kind of break that stereotype and respond right away, meet your deadlines. You would think that should be like a standard, but that is a way to
Yeah.
differentiate yourself. And then I'm fortunate that I do have I have a handful of clients that I work with regularly. Some I've worked with
Mhm.
since I started my business. So over time, even though I'm not in their office ever, some of them are here in DC, some not, maybe I'll pop in to say hello, but I never work on site with my clients. Um, but having that ongoing relationship, I feel invested with them, like I feel like I'm a
Mhm.
part of their team, even if I'm not a staff
Right.
member. And working as if you got to be just invested in their work because it's your work too, right? Like I am
Yeah.
invested in their results, and I want them to have the best possible results. And so I think that also working with clients over time, it allows me to understand the nuances of their businesses and their industries, which then enhances that partnership as well.
Okay. All right. So, you've answered my third question. So your your key to repeat business is building that rapport, being responsive, meeting deadlines, and making sure your clients get results,
Mhm.
which all equal value.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. All right. So you mentioned a couple of ways that you provide services. It could be social media, um, graphics, it could be signage. Where's your sweet spot? Where's your passion? Oh, yeah, I get to do this kind of work again.
I really love the event work. And I think,
Okay.
being just about, I hit my 5-year mark in May. And it's important as a business to have a focus and have a niche. And but it takes time to find that. And
Mhm.
it took me a couple of years and I didn't seek it out. It kind of just came to me through the clients that I had. And I realized I'm good at it. And what I'm good at with it is I'm also very organized, which again might be, an unusual quality for a designer.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have that very practical approach. So it's easy for me um, to help the client keep them organized on the design side and just take over
Mhm.
that for them, take that off their plate and, say, oh, I need this. We're going to miss the deadline. This is due. Did we get this? Coordinate with the printer. So I like that organization side of it along with the design. And then I also like taking a design and then applying it and keeping it interesting. So kind of working within the box of that brand. And that is not specific to events. That could be a corporate brand of how to keep it interesting and consistent, whether it's in an event space or otherwise within, marketing. But that I do like that working within that box and the challenge of that branding box.
Okay, cool. So now we're going to go to the other side of the coin
Okay.
where sometimes we get headaches, we shed tears, we've but we've learned something from this. So describe a painful or hard lesson that changed your career for the better.
Oh, that's a tough question. Um, I think I don't know that this is a painful lesson per se, but
Okay.
the realization that I needed to start my own business was
Mhm.
probably the best thing I could have done for my career. And I didn't expect to become a self-employed person. And had you
Oh,
asked me when fresh out of college, I saw that in DC. I went to school here in DC and I've been here my whole career, and there was a big focus on these small studios and 5-10 person, and that's where I started out. I started at a 10-person studio, moved to a 2-person studio, but I never really wanted to be that boss. And then
ah,
it just, I guess it was maybe 10 years in, I had made a big switch to an in-house company, which was a great stepping stone for me, but I realized I was feeling very constrained by the work that
mhm,
was given to me and
mhm.
underutilized. And I was frustrated because I wanted to do more. And I just had this moment and some encouragement from people in my life. I was like, go start your own business. And I was like, yeah, it's the time. So it wasn't necessarily a specific painful moment, but it came out of frustration of
Yeah, yeah.
feeling that I didn't feeling stuck, I guess, a little bit,
Mhm,
and saying like,
mhm.
even if I don't get the projects I want the opportunity to go after those projects and, have a little bit more control about the work that I get to do versus, here's a project, do this. Um,
Right.
and I have not, despite having hard times running a business, which I think everybody does, I have not looked
Yeah.
back at that moment. So that has definitely been the best choice I think I've made. And I think it came at the right time. I tried to do it 3-5 years earlier. I think it would have been more of a struggle. So
What
that slow progression, I think, just kind of led me right to it.
why so? Why do you think it would have been a struggle 3 to 5? What factors would have played in that?
Going into that corporate in-house team really was, I think, essential for me to work with people who are not in the marketing and design world. Well, it was twofold. One, I was outside of a design studio, so I was one of the few designers on a large marketing team working with writers and other
Mhm,
people. So seeing the way they work and what they focus on and how they talk about projects and how I fit into that was very important. And then also, it was a company that had nothing to do with design and marketing. So then to work with people that weren't used to working with me as a designer, that was very essential experience. And I think part of it was confidence. Building that confidence. I think, in every job I've had, I've always worked directly with the client, but
mhm.
continuing to build up that skill and um, the confidence over those years, I think, was important.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree, and I can see it, see what you're saying now. I can envision it. Um, because it it's interesting that you say you never wanted to be you never saw yourself as an entrepreneur or things like that, because most creative people are driven by having their own business. Like that's what's pushing them. Like, I'm going to go and work at this corporation for this number of years so I can learn this and then I'll move on. And then other times, I find, especially in younger individuals under 30, that their mental capacity or thought process behind this is fast tracked. It's like, I think that's the video age that they came through, but there's nothing wrong with having a job first so you can learn the lessons on somebody else's dime.
Right, exactly. Make mistakes and root over. And think of someone, who helps you catch them too before you make them,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So the one, I mean,
exactly.
I certainly made mistakes. Everybody does, and I've made them
Right.
business. But they were much smaller and much easier for me to manage once I made them versus maybe 5, 10 years ago when I would have been.
Yeah, and their budgets could absorb that mistake because it's sometimes some mistakes I've made. I said, "Ooh, that would have taken me out of here if I had been on my own."
That's true. Yeah, very true.
Yeah. So, let's talk about time and wellness. You have an interesting viewpoint. I think you should share with the group because I think it's so wise, and a lot of people could benefit from hearing it.
Okay. So for me, it was a big realization when I started my business how I had to view my own time and how much that changed from a 9 to 5. Because not that I want to work every hour of every day, but every hour does become potential work time. So it was really where I put my time. And this becomes both personal and professional. I started hiring a cleaner for my house, and that was one of the best
Yes,
decisions I've
me
ever
too.
made in my life, right? Because they clean my place faster than within a couple hours of what I can bill. Um, and just kind of looking at that, and I mean, really the time and the finances are tied. Like, you really have to look at all of it differently when you start your own business, because you don't have that set paycheck and those set hours. And the balance is hard, but I think if you start to look at it with that different perspective, you have a better ability to evaluate as your needs call for it.
Yeah. And I share your thought and your viewpoint about it because in my coaching program, there's a lesson devoted to living by design, not default. And that is all about time. It's all about how to price your services. And later on, we talk about building your packages, but it's the foundation for changing that mindset and making sure you're taking care of you because it directly impacts your clients as well as your loved ones. And I think I know I was guilty of years of making that mistake because the relationship I have, and it's good with all three of my kids, but my two older ones know mom is mom, workaholic mom. And my youngest doesn't know me as that.
Interesting. Yeah.
Fortunately, there weren't deep wounds with the two older ones, and they have a very great work ethic. But if I had a chance to do it all over again, I would definitely look at the timing of everything and how that impacts how I design my life.
Right.
We're designing things for people. We should be able to design our lifestyle as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, for me, one thing in that category that you're speaking of, it's like, there's two sides of that coin. Is you become the workaholic, but for me, it opened up so much ability to do other things too, right? So I don't have to request time off anymore. So I can pack up my
Hmm.
laptop and I can go visit my brother and my nephews out in Arizona, and I know I work when they work, and then I'm able to be there. But sometimes it took, I want to say it took me about 3 years to fully take a full week off, totally shut down, like not check email. And that is something that, looking back, I should have done that sooner. But there was that fear, which is probably what you,
Hmm.
right? That fear of, I'm not going to be there. And then, you tell people you're taking off, and they're like, "Oh, that's great." You have to remember your clients are people too. And,
Yeah, because I always thought, oh, they're going to say, oh, where are you going? I'm going to have to
right.
find another designer. I'm not going to be able to wait for you to come back from vacation. But that wasn't the case at
No, and a couple years ago, I didn't do it this year, which ended up kind of being perfect timing with the pandemic. But the 2 previous years, I do these winter escapes, I call them, and I go somewhere warm for January. And the first time I did it, I went to Bali for a month, and I went and
all.
I planned to work, so I packed up my computer and I was emailing my clients, and I was so nervous. And I got nothing but positive. It was either a, okay, thanks, to, wow, we're so jealous. We wish we could do that. Right. So, but so yeah, you kind of have to get over that. Like you are a business, but you are a person, and
Mhm.
you need to take your time. You need to take care of yourself, and you're working with people who are in businesses, right? Like it's easy to forget that we are all people in this, and we all want time off. We all want breaks. We all want to, spend time with loved ones. Um,
Yeah,
and everybody, if people are reasonable, they will not question that choice.
exactly, exactly. So, who do you want to partner with in the group? Is there anybody, any specific like illustrators or any particular
Hmm.
individuals in the group?
That's a good question. I tend to work with people that are like in the marketing realm. Uh,
Okay.
those tend to be my clients. So, if I were to continue with that, I mean, like I said, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, we can get back to in-person events next year, May or 2022. Hopefully not that long, but I mean, I like attending them as much as I like doing them. So,
Yeah.
I want to be able to go to an event again, get out of my home office and be around people. Because
Yeah.
one thing is this pandemic did not change my work at all, since I always work remotely, but it did change my
Hmm.
ability to get out of for everybody, right? We can't get out of our homes anymore and go have that break from our isolation in our home offices in normal times. Um,
And
but yeah,
even when we get out, we stress because you're going around crowds of people. So now we're like, for me, I'm not going to say everybody, to go into a Target or a Walmart, whatever, it's like,
right.
get away from me. I'm just trying to get the toilet paper, you know?
Yeah, it is very strange. So yeah, so to answer your question, probably if there's someone out there who does event planning for conference type events and really needs a design partner, who wants somebody that can manage that part of the work, for sure. That, in terms of other creatives, I haven't quite reached the point where I'm starting to pull a lot of other people in. Um, I was kind of starting to think about it, and then the pandemic hit, and I actually moved in the middle of the pandemic. So this has been a little bit of a crazy year, for various reasons. So I'm looking forward to 2021 coming, to kind of resetting, getting past. Okay, this is where we're at. We know the unknown that we're in, and I
Mhm.
got past my move, and just kind of refocusing on my business and seeing how it may grow moving forward.
Okay. Well, tell us how we can reach you, your website, Instagram, whatever way you prefer.
Yes, my website is Capizzi Designs. So that's CAPIZZI, designs with an S. Not everybody has the S in it. .com. So capizzidesigns.com is definitely the best way to reach me. You can, I do keep some kind of personal inspiration on Instagram, that is Kara C_designs. Those
Okay.
are definitely and then LinkedIn would be Kara Capizzi as
Okay.
well. So those
Well,
are,
I'm going to follow you. I'm going to follow you on IG, and I encourage everybody else to, because I think we should follow each other.
for
We
sure.
connected, and just get some inspiration from that and just give kudos to each other.
Thank you. Yeah, and I try to keep that as what inspires me. So there hasn't been much up there lately since I've been in the confines of my home. I in normal times I like to get out to museums, travel, anything that kind
Mhm.
of catches my eye, um, is what I like to put up there. So it's not overly work focused, but still has some creative flair to it.
Yeah, the balance. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for this time. And I have enjoyed getting to know you, and I look forward to building our relationship.
Likewise, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. Bye bye.